Okay. So, it doesn't matter if you build the flight deck first or the pod bay first. There's no consequence to skipping one before doing the other. So this is the floor of the pod bay. This is the ceiling. Okay, the walls all have registration. That is to say, not positional, but placement-wise. They go on, and it seems like they're in perfect location, but they are not necessarily. But it's just something you have to fool with. There's grooves that match these flanges, and the back wall has 2. So it fits in there like so. That fits there like that, and this fits like so. Now, both of these outer edges need to be sanded to be able to get the thing to fit properly in here. I decided not to try and contour this and then make a mold off of it so that I'd have a universal part. And the reason I did that is because there are always variables when assembling resin, such that nothing ever fits perfectly. Doesn't matter how perfect the master was, the parts will not fit as the master. Perfect. The ceiling also has the same type of grooves and fin situation, so that you can put this in place. There. That's now an assembled room.
Nice fit. Minus
detail. This is the baggie of the pod bay. You can tell it's big and has a lot of parts. This is the test bench casting, and it sits against this bar on the floor, and for some reason or other I can't figure out why, except it must have been late at night and I forgot something. These 2 little locating dimples here need to be sanded. If you feel it, if you put your finger on there and feel it, you'll see that it's a bump.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know why. But anyway, once that's been flattened out, this goes against there and gets centered. There's some detail molded in that quits at the edge of the footprint. So it's easy to find the correct position. And what I do is, because of the size of this thing and the weight of all the pieces, I don't rely on glue to hold this to the floor. I screw it. So you need to use something flush here, because there's a piece that goes on the back here. We'll get to that in a second. So in the big package of printed stuff, you'll find this sheet. This is 4 sets of the panels that fit into these locations here, okay? And they go all the way to this top here. You have to bend them at that line.
Yeah.
So these are cut lines, and you'll need to do some little bit of extra trimming, because these are definitely not all precisely the same, even though they're really close, like within a 32nd of an inch, you know, or a 64th. This piece here goes in the flight deck, so I'll get to that later. This is the HAL screen for
that's great.
The test bench. And man, when that thing is in place and this is painted black, boy, it works well. These are the ventilators and the roundy thingamabobs that are in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay. The ventilators go here, 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 and here. And you'll notice that there's a cutout here, which you don't need anymore. Well, I take that back. Yes, you do need it. And maybe there should be one over here. I can't remember. But the way you can know is that the ventilators come in 2 varieties. This is the whole ventilator. It has detail here and here, here, and here. The other ventilator has this detail, that detail, this detail, and no detail.
Okay.
The reason for that is, and you cut these spuds off, by the way.
Okay.
The reason for that is when you go to put these ventilators in place on the side so that they are as far away from the light opening as they can get, then the ventilator itself will be touching the wall.
Okay.
Okay? That's why I took this detail off from this side. And what I do is I screw from the outside in, through the wall, into that spot. Because when these things are affixed to the ceiling, you've got the one on this side and you've got the one on this side as points where the ceiling is held on with screws, because you've bonded the ventilator to the ceiling here. And then the other place where the ceiling can be screwed into place is over here through this flange that's on the back of the ceiling. You can just drill 2 points here and go into this space that's on the back. So in other words, the screw can be slightly long and won't hurt anything.
Right.
And once you've done that, then you've got a removable ceiling should anything ever happen on the inside. And trust me, you want that safety, because there's pods in there.
Yeah.
And
they get knocked around.
They could if you don't screw them in. Okay. So that's that bit of business. And by the way, I do have holes here to locate the inside ventilators as opposed to the outside ventilators.
Okay.
These little roundy thingamajigs, they fit here. You can actually see little circles in the part, because that's I used a part that I had decorated out at one point and then popped all the detail off, took a mold off of it. So there are these little indications of where those roundy doohickeys go in these 3 spots. So, but there is also piping that's supposed to go out to the ventilators. And I don't have that in this part. You'll have to dig up some stuff and glue it in there.
Brass rod or something.
Brass, plastic, whatever. Okay. Plastic probably work better than brass, because
easier,
brass will want to let go of the glue after a couple of years. Okay, this part here, I just remembered something else I have to print for you.
Okay.
You just need a piece of plastic, like 20 thousandths, that goes up against the stop that's on the inside of this depression. And that's the little, what I call that the vacuum cleaner closet. Because, sorry, not vacuum cleaner closet, hot water heater closet. Because there's 2 of these things.
Nice.
You have to cut the little spud off the bottom here. But these things then fit inside, and they can lean up against the back wall.
Nice.
And I don't have one of these that's finished. I mean, I have photographs of one that's finished,
right,
but I don't have a model here to do that. The other thing about this is there is this piece. Okay, this piece fits into here, thusly. And its little dividers, these things here, line up with these things. So it creates the area where these tanks sit. And this is something I pre-assembled for you. The tanks otherwise are separate from the back plate. And I just want to make sure they all fit. So they fit in there like that. And then the one thing that's going to drive you nuts, unless you have decal film at home, is putting the red stripes on these things. Because what I do is I cut a piece of decal film that is the proper width for the stripes, and I paint it red. And then I cut it into whatever will wrap around each of these, because wrapping it around these things is easy.
That's a good idea.
So, but trying to paint those on, forget it. Just forget it.
That's a good point.
I would normally have those ready for you, but I'm out of decal film right now.
No worries.
So, anyway, there's 3 sections of this. The other 2 are in there somewhere.
Yeah.
The reason for making everything separate is, of course, mold-wise, you don't want to try and be molding that. But having these out and about, it's really easy to get those little stripes on. So, and then this thing is simply what they fit into, and as a group, then you fit it in from the back side, and you're done. Okay. This panel here simply gets painted black. And is there anything else I need to go over with this? I don't think so. Okay. In my world, I put a piece of acetate over from the back to block this window and that window. I paint it black on the back side, so you've effectively got the blackness of a dark room back there. Over here, this is the spare parts locker, and what I don't have made for you right this second, but it's easy enough to print up once we get done explaining all this, is there is an image that I print that is 8 panels, and you simply crease each panel to form an octagon, and then you stick it back here, and it looks exactly like what was in the film.
That's great.
Okay, it's just printed. It's not. There's no relief to it. You don't have to paint it. You just need to put a light back there to light it up.
Nice.
We have this wall in the pod bay.
Right.
This is the ceiling that goes in the nook, where this is the emergency airlock, or the airlock. Anyway, it gets put on top of there and gets glued. Whichever side. Okay, so now the other thing about the pod bay that you need to be really cognizant of is that this isn't the only piece that makes the floor.
Okay.
This is the piece that makes the finished floor. But we have these two pieces. And it may take me a second to figure out which one's which. This one goes over here. This has contours in it. Those contours match up with the edge of the floor.
I see.
Okay? There's some flash here I haven't taken off, so it's in the way. But anyway, they fit fairly well. There is you need to do a test fit with tape first to get them both in place. This one goes on this side. And if you're kind of stumped when you look at these parts, just remember this is a right angle, and that this piece is parallel to this piece. And so and the reason for that is that's where the slide for the moving pod is. This thing here. Now this won't fit right now because it's not ready to go yet. The reason it's not ready to go is you have to glue on brass tubing on either side of this, and I'll supply you with that. And then once the brass tubing is in here, it fits in this slot very easily. This then is another reason for the puck that's inside here, because this surface forms the surface against here, so that this thing can't fall out. There is no stop as far as forward and backward movement here.
Right.
So when you pull on the pod, it only needs to come out so that this is flush here. It'll go past that, and it doesn't hurt anything. I'm just saying that there's nothing to stop it. Okay, this gets attached by the two pieces of brass tubing that aren't here. You have to drill holes into one of these. This is a stationary docking platform. It fits so it's actually slightly below the level of the floor, because you want the surface of this circle and these surfaces here to be even. If they're not, no one will care. Okay, these little rectangles fit into these little depressions, and these little rectangles probably won't fit right. Oh, it is fitting, because I just made these last night. Haven't had a chance to do a sand fit. But anyway, that extends underneath the floor, and what you will probably want to do, in fact I know you will, is you'll probably want to cut a groove, or take some material out of there, so that this thing can fit. Actually, if you don't do that, I don't think anybody's going to care. But this is the first time I've been able to look at it. So anyway, that's the way it fits as it is now. If you want to remove material from this so you can get this to be even with that, if you're going to be picky, then you know, there's less than a 1/16 of an inch difference there. I don't think anybody is going to care. The only reason it might come up as something you might want to care about is that when you drill the holes into this version, see, there's no rectangular cutout there. Okay. This is the one that gets holes drilled into it to accept the rods from the slider, from this gizmo. So it'll be sitting about that relationship there. So the rods come out. You'll be able to see them, so you paint them black. But if you can position the holes in this surface so that this surface and the surface of the two next to it are the same, in other words, position the holes vertically, then that little bit won't matter. Okay, the only drawback to what I'm talking about here is that when this thing changes position vertically to its mounting point, it will change the level at which the floor sits on here in order to get this to slide in and out. Because not only do you have to worry about the clearance at the bottom of the opening, you got to worry about the top of the pod and the top of the opening.
Right.
So that's just something you need to be aware of. So I always mount these dead center, and these other things I've made provision. I forget how I did them, but they were mounted so that everything was hunky-dory, the way I've described. Okay, so that's those things, and right now I have to say, I have to apologize, I completely spaced out on molding your pods.
Oh, no.
They're in the mold right now, but they're not out here.
Right.
Okay. Now, the one thing that is something that a lot of people don't think about. Anyway, the floor is going to sit in here about here. Okay. And when the pod is extended, you can see into that space where the pod was on the inside. And what you're going to see, if you don't do anything about it, is this thing. Okay? So to block that view, I came up with this, which is actually semi-accurate to what was on the real set. This is rounded at the bottom because it's supposed to fit right here.
Okay.
Okay? And as I say supposed to fit, it doesn't. So we have this side, and we have this side, which go together, and you'll see, whoops, and you'll notice that these are on an angle. Also keep in mind, when I made this thing, I wasn't ever intending on releasing this as a kit. And then this piece has a little bevel on the front edge, which is curved, and the bevel goes so it's pointing underneath, and that fits in there like that. So this is what fits into here against the inside surface, and this rounded area should fit fairly snugly against that inside wall. So what I wanted to show you is how this lines up, which I can't really see. You just want the front wall to be parallel with this. The sides won't matter because nobody can really tell whether the sides are in place or not. But this is the way the thing fits inside here, so that when you're looking through the opening, you see this business and what appears to be a walkway between two doors.
What a great piece of detail.
So, that's that.